Hi, I'm Annika Johnson from Al Johnson's in Sister Bay. I hope you enjoy my new video series called Door County Girl. These are stories of my life, the people and places that I love, and of course how we all survive here in northern Wisconsin. You can come back as often as you like, but don't forget to subscribe to Al's YouTube channel. I'll be posting lots of really cool new videos. So let's go! Welcome to another episode of Door County Girl. Today is a special Door County Girl for me anyway, hopefully for you too once you get done watching it. I'm here with Hans Christian, and he is nominated for a Grammy for his album Dreaming Ocean. And I just heard a couple snippets before we started, and it's all amazing to me, and I only heard a tiny bit. So I can't say much. I'm just going to let Hans kind of take it away because I'm going to be learning all about you as they are. So,
okay. How
did your love of music start? How did you get here?
Oh, that's how many hours do we have?
Yeah, we've
Annika?
Got a couple. We can put this in a nutshell, right?
Well, born in Germany.
Yeah.
My father was a minister in a Lutheran church. So I have two sisters, and all three of us were introduced to music as children. I'm the only one that survived that.
I understand.
So since I was 9 years old, I played the cello. Obviously, you go through a classical training. And I always was a strong improviser, pretty much from almost the beginning. As soon as I could play, I would just play. I would play without written music, which was a little bit unusual in the classical music world. I would get together with a friend who was a pianist, and we would just do wild musical colors of improvisation. Him on piano, me on cello.
At 9?
Yeah, 9, 10 years old, maybe 11, you know. And then a few years down the road, I had access to my father's church, Gothic church, big church, from 1880s. And I would sneak in there at night. I would grab the key from his office, go in there, and it was in the city of Hanover, so it was in the city. It means you can't really turn the lights on because the police would have probably stopped. So I'd go in there when it was dark, and I would sit in the church, and I actually would sit in front of the altar, which was uncanny because at that time I wasn't really sure whether that was allowed or not. Mm-hmm. So I would improvise cello in a scary dark church in front of the altar, by myself, in front of the altar, and I thought, so either God is going to strike me with a thunderbolt, or a serial killer is going to hide behind the pillar or something. It was scary, but it was a great environment. It was a great acoustic environment also. And then so the reason why I bring that up, because it had all these ingredients that are in my music to this day. It had spirituality, it had the sonics. Sound is really important to me. It had improvisation. Of course, improvisation then leads to composition, mm-hmm. right? But so literally, even at age, let's say 13, I would pretty seriously pursue that.
You were like an old soul.
Well, I don't know. But then I've acted like a young soul plenty of times, believe me. But then when I was...
Did your dad know you snuck in?
No.
Oh.
I might have told him later.
Okay.
So then when I was 14, I also added the bass guitar. So I continued with classical music on the cello, classical education, and self-taught on the guitar, on the bass guitar, and I would start playing with bands. And I had this weird dual track in music. And make a long story short, in 1982, when I was 21 years old, I decided to come to America and moved to LA, found a little music school there called Musicians Institute. It was right on Hollywood Boulevard. It was a very seedy, rundown part of town back then, very different today. And yeah, that's where that was kind of my entrance to the American life. You know, it was I'm the typical immigrant. I came with nothing. I had no family. I had very little money. I didn't have a place to stay. I stayed at the YMCA. Yeah, it was one of those.
Did you bring your cello and your bass guitar
Correct.
with you?
I literally remember this vividly because I lost my suitcase. So I waited at LAX airport all night for my suitcase. It never arrived until several days later. And I took the airport bus to Hollywood Boulevard at 4:30 in the morning. I was the only passenger on this bus. It was a bus driver, really nice guy. Said, "Why don't you sit next to me up front?" So what? You know, he asked me, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, you're gonna make it. Don't you worry." It was great.
It was meant to be.
And then he dropped me off at Grauman's Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, which is where the bus stop was. And I said, "Well, where's the YMCA?" Because I had a so-called reservation. Yeah, right. And so, you just walk down like to Ivar Street, it's like 4 blocks. And I literally walked on Hollywood Boulevard at 5:30 in the morning with a cello, a bass, and a pair of underwear in the cello case.
And no clothes.
No clothes, $300 in my pocket. That was it.
Oh my gosh.
It was a pretty rough start.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But, you know, we survived that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
It makes it, you're a colorful character. This makes it even better. Okay, so then you got there. How did that go?
Well, I loved the school. I was practicing a lot. I had pretty good habits already around practicing because of the cello. And I wanted to be really good, and I also knew that was a one-way ticket. You know, deep in my heart, I knew I gotta get my act together. So I practiced a lot, and then lo and behold, I befriended a drummer there who we got along. We were goofing off in the rehearsal room a lot, and we played usually heavy funk. That was my thing. Was not so much into jazz. I was like, we want to just tear it up on the instrument, right? And he said, "Hans, you want to do a gig?" I didn't even know what that meant. I was so green. I said, "A gig? Is it the drug?" "No." "Playing a concert."
Yes.
"Okay."
I'm like, what's that?
Oh, man. So he said, "You just do what we're doing in the practice room. You just improvise." And so, "Okay, where is it?" "So at the Whiskey."
Oh my gosh.
"Where's the Whiskey?" I was so green.
That Whiskey a Go-Go, yeah.
And so my first 4 gigs in LA were 2 at the Whiskey and 2 at the Roxy.
Wow.
With this performance artist that we were backing up. And it was, just imagine like this. It's like, I was backstage at the Whiskey. He said, "Dress outrageously." I said, "No problem."
I don't have any clothes.
Oh my God.
Come naked in my underwear.
No problem. There were some seedy hooker stores, and I went in there and got some leopard outfits and some plastic outfits. And
Oh my God.
it was the 80s.
We would
It
love
was
to
the
see
early
pictures,
80s.
right?
Oh my God. Anyways, we were backstage, and I met, it was the drummer, it was the brother of the drummer on a Buchla synthesizer, which is a synthesizer without keyboard. It's just filters, just a noisemaker, and me on bass. And I met this artist, Johanna Wendt was her name. And the drummer introduced me to her and said, and Johanna said, "Oh, Hans, nice to meet you." Like a little lady. And said, "Oh, what are we doing?" "Oh, just play, and just remember when I do the thing with the fish,
With a fish.
stop." Okay. So then Brock and I, the drummer and I, went on stage, packed house, people were screaming, okay? It was like, holy cow. And Brock said, "Start playing." It's like, anything? Okay, we started laying down the groove, and he was a great drummer, and we just clicked right away. And then his brother did like wild sounds, and then Johanna ran on stage screaming.
Oh my God.
That's like, what kind of a freak show is
You
that?
have no idea what's
I
going
was
on.
fresh off the boat, okay? I was in LA maybe for 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, okay? So we did our thing. She was throwing things at the audience. She had all these props prepared, like fake big hot dog sandwiches. And she was just rolling around on the stage screaming and all kind of stuff. And then there was this kind of a wardrobe stand that was draped. There was some black drape over it. And she ripped that drape off, and there was a fish hanging, like a real fish, like a big one. And she took that fish, and she had a knife, and she cut the fish open, and she gutted the fish and smeared the guts in her face. People loved it. People loved it. They were screaming, and she was screaming, and everybody was screaming and saying, "Oh, wait, it's the fish thing."
I would have never thought you were going to tell me she was going to do that with the fish. Okay.
That was my first gig in America.
And you were just playing. You
Yeah.
had to stop then.
Yeah, well, at that point, it's like, oh, right, this must be the fish thing after like 45 minutes
What
of
did you
chaos.
think of it when it was happening?
Oh, I loved it.
Oh my gosh.
I was 21 years old, playing in the biggest club in LA, and it packed. The Minutemen were our opening act. I mean, we were a happening band then.
What was the name of the band?
Johanna Wendt.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then we repeated that because there was such a turnout that we did another show at the Whiskey, and then we did 2 at the Roxy, and then the drummer, he's just a godsend. He got me in a. Then I knew musicians, and I got into bands, and started to do my thing in LA.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long were you in LA?
6 years.
6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happened?
Well, then I did everything I could. I actually kind of, in hindsight, I grew so much from the starting point that I just shared with you to having played Solid Gold, American Bandstand. I played with some really big names. That still wasn't enough. I had this appetite for music that was just, then people discovered I was playing cello. I played in the folk music scene, which was a happening scene in LA too. So and I played with some really big folk artists, and started touring around the country. And then I got into theater, did music for theater. There was a downtown theater scene, the non-equity theaters, the small ones, and there was some incredible talent there. And I stumbled in there. I had a loft in downtown for a while, so I stumbled into the theater scene. And then I had my own shows. I started developing my own music when I had time. So, since I'm not a singer, I'm not a songwriter, I don't play guitar. It was a bit of a search, but it's actually my own expression, Mm-hmm. And at that point, I realized that my path would probably force me to let go of the obvious path to fame and fortune in LA, because I also felt like that's not me. First of all, I was not a wallflower, but I started losing people to overdoses. Mm-hmm. It was a big deal. I was friends with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I played in a band where we replaced Flea, and so I was really close with those guys. And there were other people I worked with. They were just a wreck, mm-hmm. And I want to make sure Chili Peppers are great guys, mm-hmm. but there was, in the beginning of that band, when they lost Hillel to an overdose, and he was. So there was that scene going on. I hung out with Billy Idol and John Waite and people like that, and God bless him, but it was just not my vibration, And I realized.
Kudos for you for not getting involved in all that. That's
well, I was involved, but I extricated myself, and I said I needed to find more in music too, because mm-hmm. just to hang around in front of a camera and act all cool, in a way, it was like I was embarrassed to do that. Mm-hmm. I did music videos with those guys, and it just didn't feel right. Mm-hmm. So eventually, I did my own first solo tour, European tour.
With the cello?
Cello, and I started doing this live looping thing, and then light projections, and I traveled with a Japanese dancer. She was striking looking, shaved head, and all very existential stuff we did, but I kind of gave some birth to my own music at that point. Mm-hmm. And then I left LA. I literally kind of slept in a car for a couple of days. It was just, again, totally, floating. And then I landed in San Francisco and started a new life there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you were in San Francisco, and
Yeah.
then we're still here in Door County, so you still have ways to catch up.
Okay.
We got some more info here.
All right. So in 1989, I started my first own recording studio in San Francisco. It was a very humble setting, okay? But I had an investor, so I had some decent equipment, and I had already done enough work in studios in LA that I knew I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was married at the time to somebody who was friends with Fred Heidi from Door County and Fred Alley.
Oh, yeah.
And she found out that they wanted to do a CD project. And she said, well, why don't you come to San Francisco and do it with Hans? And that's what they did. They came and we recorded a beautiful album called Lessons I Learned from the Moon, Fred Heidi's first album. And I knew some really exquisite musicians that I brought in. And we became friends that way. And then Fred Alley decided to stay in the Bay Area. I think there were some repo men after him at the time in Wisconsin. So he decided to stay in the San Francisco Bay Area, rented an apartment, and so we had a chance to hang out and become good friends. Mm-hmm. And then when he went back to Wisconsin, he invited me to visit, and I would do that. I felt very special about our friendship. You know, he was a really special man, as you know. And so one thing led to another, and then I ended up touring a lot nationally with my own music and started routing it through Door County. And then Fred and I did 2 albums together, Door Christmas and The Lake. And so fell in love with Door County. And at some point, you know, I lived in Marin County, which is north of San Francisco.
Sure.
It got really expensive there.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't have to live here anymore. I can actually live anywhere in the country. Where would I like to live? Door County. That's how it was.
When I first saw you, when I walked in the door, you told me why Door County and what you felt about Door County. I loved what you said. What did you say about that when you first came here and you just...
Right. So the first thing that I noticed was the air quality.
The air quality, yeah.
Yeah. I remember that clearly. It's like the scent in the air and the purity of the air. I really loved that. And they kind of hit a deep core. Mm-hmm. You know, when you find a place that, boy, there's something about this place that I really resonate with. And that's what it was. So,
I like when you said that.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you were here in Door County. And then how did you grow into this? How did you get into, now we're in this beautiful old house here in Sturgeon Bay.
Right.
And how did you get right here?
Well, you buy it.
It was for sale and you came to look at it and you had an envisionment and this is what it was going to be.
I was looking for a place. Once I lived in Sister Bay for the first 6 years. And changes happened in life and I had to move out of there. And I moved back to LA, actually, for a little while, rented a house in LA. I worked on a project there. And I thought, should I move back to LA or not? So it was really up in the air. Where would I land after Sister Bay? And I consulted with some people in the music business, and they both said, why would you want to come back? Everybody in LA wants to leave if they could.
Really?
I said, boy, that was an excellent feedback. And then I thought, well, maybe I should look around in Sturgeon Bay, which I didn't really have a relationship with at all. And I found this building for sale. And that building has been great, you know, it's large. It has room for a studio and living quarters and even an event space. I've had events in, guest quarters, the whole thing.
It's an all-in-one, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous on the outside. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I walked in here and I'm blown away just by this room with all the guitars and everything. And so now you want to get into this, why we're even speaking right now. I wanted to hear all your history.
It's
But
all your
something
fault.
wonderful
It's
has
all your
happened
fault.
to
You contacted me.
No, yeah, Door County sucked you into the vortex, but now you are a nominee for a Grammy.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to talk about too, because this
Okay.
is pretty big news for a little place like Sturgeon Bay or Door County in general and all your music friends. So talk about that a little bit, because you were explaining that to us while we weren't on camera, and I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, so November 10th of last year, I got an email. Actually, I was on a motorcycle ride. I remember that. And when I came home, I said, what's going on with my phone? There's all these messages. And congratulations, and text messages, phone messages, and all that. And it's like, whoa. So I had to go online and double check this. And yes, lo and behold, so my last release, Ocean Dreaming Ocean, was nominated for a Grammy.
So you had no idea?
No, you can't have an idea until it's publicized, until you win the nomination.
Okay, well tell this audience what you told us about how many, it's not like you won the Grammy, but it is like you won the Grammy by just being nominated. To me, that was really powerful.
Right, so there are multiple categories, okay, that the Recording Academy is the body that issues the Grammys, okay, and hosts the Grammys. The Recording Academy has 91 categories. That's a lot of categories.
A lot.
Each category has multiple entries. The category that I'm nominated in, the New Age Ambient Chant category, has 175 entries. Each entry, I'm a voting member, so I have access to 16 of the 91 categories that I can vote on. So I listened to a lot of music when I had to cast my votes, in all these different categories, and including New Age. And I know that every one of those 175 projects that was entered was a labor of love, with blood, sweat, and tears and joy in it, So every artist was giving it a good shot. And so to be nominated and selected along with 4 others out of 175 is great. That's very difficult to get that. And the truth is, we live in northeastern Wisconsin. We don't live in Los Angeles or New York or Nashville. Those are the main music cities. And then also Seattle, San Francisco, and Chicago. If you don't live in those cities, you don't do the networking. You don't have access to it, So to get this nomination means 2 things for me. First of all, I think it's a fantastic project. I'm very proud of it. It's a very special project. I'll get into that in a minute. But it's also a testament to all my work that I've done, despite my location.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't go to the Grammy local chapter parties where you just hang out and people get to know you. That would be in Chicago. That's 250 miles away, But I've probably worked on about 200 projects in my life, maybe more, I don't know. And people know my work, and it's an endorsement of my work, I think, this nomination. And that means a lot to me.
Yes, I'd be very proud of myself if I were you as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And so
I keep looking at the 9-year-old right now, looking at you now, saying, I just did it.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, my music is esoteric. It's poetry, but it's not always in bright colors.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the cello sounds best in a minor key.
You played a little bit when Brett McCoy was, you went around with your own camera and asked a couple of the locals to put in a little word for you, and Brett McCoy did a little blurb, which I think is amazing. And you showed that picture of you playing a cello all by yourself in the corner, and how he just was mesmerized by you, like he couldn't stop listening. He was just blown away. And it's just you and the cello in a corner in a room in Sturgeon Bay, and what it meant to him.
There's something that happens when I pick up the cello.
And it wasn't you that it was happening to, it was him.
Yeah,
which
but
was,
he picked up on something.
Yeah.
He picked up on something. And the audiences pick up on something when I play. And it's not music that you usually hear on the radio. Although my music actually gets a fair amount of airplay, because thank God there's still disc jockeys, DJs, and podcast hosts and syndicated radio shows that play more esoteric music, you know. So I actually get pretty much a good exposure, but that's another miracle, frankly.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Well,
I mean, this is
the album.
Yeah, here's actually a copy. So
Yeah,
Ocean Dreaming Ocean.
Ocean Dreaming Ocean. This is the one everybody needs to pick up before February 4th, because that's when the Grammys are going to be awarded. And would you play a little bit?
Sure.
Because this whole keyboard thing is blowing my mind, so I don't want to touch anything. Just love listening.
You can push that button.
This one?
Mm-hmm. What does it do? It lights up red.
Yeah, it's red.
Okay.
Is that bad?
You can push that fader up.
Go all the way up?
Mm-hmm. Computer has to wake
All the
up
way up.
right now.
Okay.
So, this is the opening track. So what you're hearing right now is all cello. This album has almost no keyboards on it, no
it's
synthesizers.
mostly just you and your cello.
It's another cellist on this.
One other cellist.
Yes. And I'll tell you in a minute what's special about this project.
Okay.
So it's like a wash.
How did you choose Ocean, Dreaming Ocean for the name? I mean, this music sounds that way to me.
Yeah, that was a work title. So let me give you a little feedback or background on this project, okay? And we can pull this music down. It's what I call a serial collaboration. Now, what does that mean? That means a collaboration that didn't take place in the physical realm. There's another cellist on here, and his name is David Darling. So David Darling passed away January 8th, 2021. So he was to the cello world what Miles Davis was to the trumpet world. You know who Miles Davis was?
Oh,
Okay,
I
good.
do, yeah. I do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you get my point,
Miles,
right?
yeah.
He was a legendary musician, a trailblazer, an incredible musician, a strong improviser, a beautiful, tragic soul. And he kind of was a trailblazer. He opened up a whole style of playing that I'm the next generation of. He's obviously was older than me. He was born 1943. Mm-hmm. And he did all kinds of incredible stuff on the cello. He did beautiful albums, very moody, very deep, very meditative, but not numbing, you know. It was just like tearing your heart open. Mm-hmm. And so he recorded for ECM Records, which is an incredible record label, you know, and Hearts of Space Records and others, Curve Blue. And so I just know what he was up to. You know, it was familiar territory. I never met him,
Oh, I was going to ask you that.
Never met him.
You've never met him.
Never met him.
You've admired him from afar and never had the chance to meet him, and he passed away.
Whenever there was a new CD, I would check it out and say, oh, it's so beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so last year in February, I got an email followed by a phone call from David Darling's longtime producer, Mickey Houlihan in Boulder, Colorado. And Mickey introduced himself and said, Hans, I have raw recordings of David's, as in very raw, okay? Like improvisations that didn't amount to be a piece. And he said, I can't delete it. It's David Darling. I can't delete it, but it's also not complete enough to turn into a piece, even if you edit it or something. And I think you're the guy. I said, really? Yes, send it over.
So you're actually,
So
in
he
my
sent me-
eyes, you're actually meeting him, but you're not meeting him
Correct.
in person. You're meeting his music
So
in
this piece
the raw form.
is the first piece that's the final version, obviously. And so what you hear is about half Hans, half David. Actually, this is all me right now, because I needed to build a bridge to the next part, which is David singing and playing. This starts to sing. So it's this beautiful,
Wow.
multicolored, all in darker colors, and So I had like this one phrase of David singing. where he
This
was-
is him singing?
Him singing and playing cello at the same time.
Oh. He sure has a high voice.
Listen to this. That's all I had until there. Let's repeat it and build a string section around it.
Wow.
So stuff like that, it was,
I feel like he's a ghost here
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
watching this.
yeah. So I called this piece Epitaph. Nice and uplifting for an opening piece.
If you wouldn't have told me
Yeah.
that was him singing, I was going to ask you, did you have a woman come in and sing this part? The voice is so high.
So he
Unbelievable.
was known for that. He had this ability to play and sing at the same time. Pretty difficult stuff, and he always in this falsetto voice that he had. And I just loved that. And it was just this one little section that I just pointed out. On the whole project, that's the only time you'll hear him sing.
Wow.
But
I like how you put his name first.
Yeah, well, he do, he was
Yes.
the senior talent there. But
What an honor.
well, so once I finished that piece, I sent it back to Mickey and said, Mickey basically said, you can do whatever you want, but keep it special. That's the one request he had for me. Keep it special. And say, yes, sir, I know what you mean.
What did he say when you played him what you've come up with?
Oh yeah, so he was just so happy to hear this end result, and he said, originally I was thinking I would find other producers to do some other pieces, but this is so good that you're going to get all of them. So he gave me 7 more tracks, and they're all a big mess.
So you have them, but you haven't done anything with them yet.
Well, no, that's they're all on this.
They're all
CD.
on this one.
Yeah,
Only.
yeah. So
All 7
he gave
of
me
them.
raw. He gave me raw recordings and improvisations where David Darling was, I guess, feeling inspired but not refined in any way. This was one of the more refined ones. So, and then it's like a lot of listening, a lot of sorting out. Oh, I can use this. Can't really use that section, but okay, these 5 cello tracks could play this role, and then those 5 or 6 cello tracks could be used in this way, and this major construction. It's like I have a hole here. I really need to fill in here. I need to play solo here, and then he can play solo there, like that. And that's how we did it.
Oh gosh.
And then there was a lot of, because I didn't want to, I wanted to create depth in the music, but I didn't want to use keyboards or synthesizers or something, which is what people often do. And so a lot of the depth is generated by effects processing, where you run sections of cello tracks through, you know, reverbs and delays, and create a very organic depth layer. So
wow. And that's and being a producer and also a cellist yourself.
yeah.
You have the best of both worlds
Yeah.
to make it something special, because I think he would be really proud of
Yeah,
what
I'll
you've
play you
done.
another piece.
Yeah,
So
please
here's,
do. This is really nice.
So here's a piece, for example, Minor Blue Chorale, where you hear the main, you know, orchestrated part. Then you hear a cello solo. That's David Darling.
Okay.
And then I needed a response. So the second cello solo is mine. And then the third section, because it's a chorale, so I was repeating the part. A chorale means you're repeating parts, right? So first solo is David Darling, second solo is Hans, and then the third section is the two of us doing a duet.
Wow.
Check it out.
Beautiful.
So that's David Darling playing the melodic line. I was doing most of the fill behind it. So this is the first, now we've copied all the backing tracks over, splice. Now it's Hans playing
Now it's
cello.
you.
Yeah. And I added more cellos to make it not the same, you know. So that's like a response now. Here's the splice coming up. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Repeat. There's David Darling, and there's Hans.
Wow. That's beautiful.
The idea, right? So that's every
amazing.
piece. Yeah, every piece had its challenges. This was the most melodic piece that I had from David.
So this piece right here, this song, or whatever you want to say, I don't know if you call it a song.
Yep. Well,
how long did it take you to start it and finish it?
not really
Where
sure.
you felt it was
I worked on the whole record over a period of 8 months.
8 months for the whole album.
Now I obviously also did other things. I worked on other projects, but Yeah, you don't do that in one day.
No, I would never imagine.
mean,
I
just to
thought you were
listen.
going to tell me 10 years, but
No.
8 months.
Just the listening, you always start with just a lot of listening with the raw material, and that just have to listen and remember which parts are of interest and which ones aren't.
Wow. And when you work, do you like to be by yourself?
Yes.
Where no one's around you, no interruptions, nobody bothering you?
100%.
Yeah.
The slightest commotion will distract me, and I get so. Actually, it's funny. It's like my girlfriend Kelly sometimes walks in, and I'm so deeply in the music, I don't even notice that she walks in, and all of a sudden it's like that. So I prefer to just, you know,
Yeah, you're
to be by
hyper-focused
myself.
on something.
Obviously,
yeah.
when I work with other artists, then that's a completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it requires a lot of focus.
Wow.
You can't just.
What would you tell some of the younger generation that was getting into the cello and not really thinking of that as a great instrument that they would want to pick? I mean, when we were younger and we joined band in high school, everybody picks the drums and the
guitar.
Yeah, I mean, nobody would ever say, I want the cello or the tuba or, you know, like the alto sax.
Well, the cello will find you. I should try it out and see if it speaks to you. Like it spoke to me, you know. Yeah. When I first saw it, I remember the moment when I fell in love with the cello when I was at an opera house in Hanover, Germany, when I was about 9 years old. Must have been around winter of 1969. And my parents took me to must have been some kind of a Christmas opera thing, you know, can't remember what that was, but there was an orchestra, and there was a cello section with like 6 or 7 cello players, and I just kept on looking, saying, oh my God, those instruments, they look so beautiful as a kid. And then they were polishing it.
I have not heard many kids say that, ever.
I was
like
just
that,
drawn to
cellos.
it, and my parents, bless them, they noticed that, and they for Christmas 1969, they gave me cello lessons. They gave me a cello, but it was a rental. Obviously,
Okay.
you don't buy an instrument.
Yeah,
right
because
away.
they wanted to see if you would really want to
exactly.
learn. And
But I remember when we were opening presents, that was my present. It was a cello, and I was like, "How do you do it?" You know, like that. And then I had my first lesson shortly thereafter, like January.
And did you know right away that was your instrument, that you loved it?
Pretty
and
much.
You wanted
I mean,
to
it's a difficult instrument to learn. And as a kid, I mean, there's nothing natural about it initially. The way you hold the bow, the way you sit with the instrument, shoulders down, elbow up.
It's so
You know, the
big.
fingering, all of that. It was like, it's not like I was a prodigy, born again, you know, reincarnated cello wizard. No, I had to learn it the normal way.
Maybe not that, but in the brain, I feel
But I
like
liked
you
it.
wanted to learn
liked it.
But maybe not that you knew what to do, but you had the want for it.
I had other instruments that I tried before. I played piano for a year before then, and I played flute, which I didn't like at all. Piano was interesting, but my piano teacher said, I think he's a string player. So, yeah, that's how it was.
How often do you practice?
Right now, I practice almost every day.
And how many hours a day?
Sometimes somewhere between 2 and 6 hours.
Wow.
So, I mean, when I'm really, the 6-hour thing happens when I'm really inspired, because I'm working some material for some upcoming concerts that I want to give.
That's my next question. So with being in Door County right now and before February when they have the Grammys, is there opportunities for people to come and hear you play somewhere? Are you playing?
Before? No.
Yeah, no, not before. But they can buy this album
Right, yeah. It's
on your website.
Yeah, or even locally.
Locally?
There's some places locally.
Name a couple places, because these people are all going to ask, where can they buy
Like the Pearl here on 3rd Avenue in Sturgeon Bay. It's this lovely little gift shop. And they have CDs there. Articipation Gallery, also in Sturgeon Bay on the east side. On the west side, I guess we call it, although it's neither east nor west. Articipation. So I'll be playing in Door County 2 concerts right now, maybe more. 2 are confirmed. March 2nd at Door Community Auditorium.
Yay. Okay.
As part of their Fireside series. March 2nd, 7 o'clock. And then at Articipation, I'll be playing March 8th.
Oh, okay. Good.
I love that gallery, and it's a lovely energy there. And so I'm going to play a concert there. And now I'm booking concerts outside of the county. And I might then down the line do more in the county. We'll see.
Okay.
You know?
I have a strange question. If anybody wanted to book you, can they book you?
Sure, they can reach out to me. Yeah, any setting where people listen to music. Obviously, my music is not suitable for bars or for chit-chat.
Like a dinner party and everybody's not paying attention to you.
No. House concerts, you know, if there are established house concerts, I've done those, and those are great. Churches with concert series, little concert halls, you know, places like that.
You know what I like about you? That talking to you, I don't know you very well, but you don't have a big head. You don't out full of yourself. You don't really think you're like the cat's meow. You're not trying to brag yourself out there. You worked hard. I mean, from when you were like 9 years old until now, you worked your butt off to get where you are.
Right.
I mean, it's not something that you just took lightly. You love what you do. So this is my last question for our little interview here. What do you think your chances are of winning this Grammy? Because I feel like it's amazing, and I don't know. What are your chances? What do you feel?
I think I have good chances of winning it. The reception that this album has already gotten so far has been really encouraging, actually. And there's nothing trivial about it, and I think New Age music has a bit of a stigma of sometimes being maybe a little cheesy, a little trivial, and so forth. And it seems like the people that vote, which are the people that matter, in this context of the conversation at least.
I mean, if it was up to Sturgeon Bay, you already would have won.
Maybe so, yeah. But I'm just really encouraged by the feedback I've been getting from people through messages, and the fact that it got nominated, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that shows that people they want to go deep, they want esoteric, they want quality, and they also want to honor David Darling, and they want to honor my life's work, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've never owned one of your CDs before, or I don't even know what you call them anymore. Do you call them CDs? Everybody said it wasn't called a CD anymore. I don't know. But if you've never had a CD or listened to one that Hans has done, you should start with this one now, because you can always go back and listen to your other ones. But this is the one that's nominated, and I highly recommend it. I've just listened to 2 songs, and they were just beautiful. I mean, this is something meditational and just beautiful. So
you can also listen to it on any streaming services. If you don't do CDs anymore, you can find it on Spotify and Amazon Music, Apple Music, everywhere where you listen to music. I think YouTube, it's on everywhere. So that's the way people tend to listen to music now, and you can easily find it.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This was excellent. When you get your Grammy, can we come and see it?
Oh, we'll celebrate.
Oh!
I think we'll have a big studio party.
Yeah!
We'll celebrate. We'll just have fun.
Excellent.
Either here or
will you be playing in the background?
We'll see what happens.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Hans, thank you so much for taking time. That was really, really interesting.
Thank you.
You have an amazing life.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching another episode of Door County Girl, everyone. And boy, this was a treat. And I wish you would recommend it to your friends. And tune in on February 4th to see if Hans won the Grammy. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for watching Door County Girl. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.